If you are
All
just
right.
joining us, my name is Jeff Hoagland. I'm joined here by my commentating partner, Nick Shrillo. We have 5 players remaining in this tournament. There are 2 Rakdos aggro decks. We have 1 Rakdos midrange deck, which is a young Pyromancer variation. Is the thing that differentiates it from the aggressive decks that are playing things like Embercleave. And then 1 Sultai lands, and then what was the other one? Oh, Jund Sacrifice is still remaining. And it's notable that our 1 remaining Jund Sacrifice player is a person who elected to register Cat, Oven, and Scavenging Ooze and Bone Crusher Giant as opposed to some of the other variations that have been running around on the ladder.
So thank God we have this Field of the Dead deck to save us from all of these mean, bad, red-black decks.
Yep.
Trying to just ruin the format.
And
We have the
again,
hero that we need.
this is just one tournament. I wouldn't take the results of this tournament to be gospel. It's a small sample size. We only have 126 players, but I am optimistic after seeing how this tournament has gone so far that Field of the Dead, even with our promise added, probably isn't overbearing for this format. It seems like there's a variety of both honest aggressive decks like this red-black deck to more combo-based decks like the Jund Sacrifice deck and the Kisis deck that is probably an appropriate power level for the format. But obviously we need some more data behind us to get that going.
Yeah, I think the Jund Sacrifice deck is well set up to defeat these other Rakdos decks. I think you are a little bit bigger. Mayhem Devil seems quite strong at picking apart their synergies, especially like Cat Oven seems really good at stymieing their early aggression. The question for me is going to be if that deck can take down Sultai.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see which of these other, like, there's basically 4 red black X decks that have differentiation in 3 different archetypes between them, but one of them is going to have to go up against Sultai for the title.
Yep. Yeah, so in case people don't know, because our Sultai Lands player was the last undefeated player, and because we have 5 players here, there's basically the 4 non-Sultai players are going to play a bracket, and then they're going to meet in the finals versus the Sultai player as basically a reward for being
our last undefeated.
The last undefeated. Yep.
So a little bit different than a traditional double elimination bracket, but we work it this way because if someone stays undefeated for a long time, it cuts a round off our long day. So, on the off chance that happens, we run it through. Which I think actually, so this is our 5th open, and I think only 1 out of 5 has someone managed to 9-0 their way through it. There's always given up a loss on the way.
And I mean, we're at 3:22 my time. We started at 10, so we'll probably be finished in like under 8 hours. These arena tournaments really, especially when you get in later rounds, really clip along.
Yep, correct. The double elimination structure really helps it get going. I'm just waiting on our players to start.
The Sultai player is in chat and would also like to say that I decided to play this tournament at 2 a.m. last night. So I assume it's like 7 a.m. for them this morning. And clearly they are gamers. They are here to game and obtain all the bread that they can. Tommy, you are my favorites. You better keep winning.
All
and
right.
by that, I mean, don't fall asleep in the next 2 rounds.
Let's head on down to our feature match area where we'll be watching Rakdos midrange versus Rakdos aggro. Again, if you want to see those deck lists, they're either, if you watch this on YouTube, below the video, or they're on the stream decker if you're watching live on Twitch now. Welcome to everybody. Our aggressive player featuring things like Thoughtseize, or they both have Thoughtseize, but things like Earthshaker Kenra and Phoenix of Ash. And notable here, again, this is a heads-up decklist tournament, so they know what they're playing against. Ashiok Dream Render is a huge card in this matchup because the way both of these decks actually are generating value is through their graveyard, and Ashiok not only enables self-mill for the aggro player, but it exiles the opponent's graveyard as a hate card. I think that's going to be one of the most important cards in the matchup, so I think having it in the opening here for Cricket is huge.
For sure. And Thoughtseize isn't super impactful.
I mean, taking the Stitcher Supplier seems to be... Oh, there's a claim fee.
Claim it.
Okay, so you just... Yeah, oh, yeah, I guess it's all... You take village rights then? You take village rights?
I think you still take the supplier and make them claim it, because otherwise they can just claim...
I think I take the thing that's not like the others. I think I'm taking one of the spells for sure. I think it's probably
Yeah,
Village
that's
Rites.
fair. Yeah,
Usually when you're playing disruption like this, you want to ask yourself like, okay, which part of their plan can I break up? And the only part you can break with this hand is the draw, right? The sacrifice outlet.
that's true. And also, you have the graveyard synergies you have on check with this Ashiok,
Correct. Yeah.
right?
So like the Stitcher
So,
supplier bidding a bunch of cards like really isn't a big deal because of your graveyard hate.
mhm.
Earthshaker Kenra, I'm going to go ahead and pull that one up for folks that are newer. We've had this one on stream earlier, and I think this is easily a card that's going to be an aggro staple out of Amonkhet Remastered. Just powerful, aggressive threat that also generates a little value as the game goes late.
Yeah, seems very powerful. It's a little awkward here that it's looking to trade with the citrus supplier, which is not ideal. But
looks like we're just going to get Ashiok going ASAP here, which I kind of love. Now, the downside to this Ashiok, obviously you don't know that they have claim fame, but like this Ashiok is going to die to the claim fame.
ooh, but look, I mean, look at all that. Look at all that in the bin. Like,
Correct. Yeah, and this is it's doing exactly what we talked about, right? Like not only did it exile Drew's graveyard, but now we got Kroxa, we got Phoenix of the Ash, we got another Earthshaker for later, so it drew us like 3 cards.
And now it's super awkward, right? Because if you claim the Kenra to kill the Ashiok, then you can't claim the Kroxa, which is assuming what you want to do. You see it coming. But then if you don't claim the Kroxa, they might not even cast the Kroxa, right? They might just use this Thoughtseize in hand. So it's putting a ton of pressure down on the opponent, which I like. Because a lot of decks play Ashiok doesn't do anything for them.
Yep.
And I really like that in this deck, you get a lot of value off the downtick yourself, as well as being a hate card for your opponent.
Correct, and that's why it's main deckable, right? Like usually we see Ashiok pop up as a sideboard card that you like bring in to stop searching effects, or as a couple activations on a piece of graveyard hate. But here we see it really getting to use every bit of the Ashiok Buffalo.
For sure. So from Cricket's side, they know opponent has Dragon Skull Summit. They know they didn't play the Summit.
Yep. So they're trying to figure out what are they supposed to do here. And I think it's just like Thoughtseize, Mountain, play Phoenix from hand, right? And then Ashiok yourself?
I think so. I think that's the optimal play. You can get... they can't really priest your Phoenix, because then they can't kill the Ashiok.
Yeah, like Kroxa just kind of sucks in general against this priest, right? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not in love with that with the line here. And obviously you see Cricket under the clock here on the rope. I think we're about to time out. We're about to time out. Okay.
Don't do it.
We milled ourselves to buy a second. Oh wait, wow. We fully timed out. Oh jeez.
All right, well this was not optimal. I would suggest casting your spells.
Yeah, and I mean again that's one of the tough parts, right? And, you know, playing in tournaments, well, it can be stressful. Like these players have been playing Magic, you know, for the last 6 hours now.
I'm hungry. They're probably also hungry.
It's not been a short day, so you know it's tough. And this is something that actually I know it's can be tough as a spectator to like, oh man, this match was decided by the rope, or this game was decided by a rope for the most part, but as someone who's played a lot of paper Magic, watching paper players sit there and tank for forever without anything ever nudging them, I much prefer the setup here on Arena.
Yep. Then the judge nudges them, and then they say, okay, and they like fiddle with their planes, and yeah, we don't need that here.
Yeah, and I think Cricket would be ahead if we hadn't roped our turn, but
I'm not even sure they're that far behind. Honestly,
I think they are. I think the Innocent Blood and the Claim the Firstborn leave them in. Well, I guess you get to go land, Thoughtseize. Okay,
you get the Thoughtseize first, right? So you get the Thoughtseize, the Claim, and then
they get to Innocent Blood. They get to Innocent Blood you off of the Kroxa, and then they smack you with their Kroxa. Is the problem?
Yeah, the being so far behind on tempo is rough. I really like Drew's play here to snap off the priest sacrifices for no value just to get a bunch of cards in the graveyard to try to mill into a powerful threat.
Yep. And also, the priest activation there also generated Drew enough mana to escape the rocks in the first place.
Not thought seizing is.
Yeah.
Uh,
So we're.
well,
Well, I guess.
so they can't have both Croxes, right?
Yeah, okay, they're not dead because of the legend rule. But the claim does just still kill Croxa at least.
Or they might just innocent blood though, right? Like play no, they have Pyromancer. Yeah, it's definitely slipping away from cricket.
Innocent blood is so good with Young Pyromancer. Just like, all right, make a token, sack a token.
Yeah, this isn't a card you really see in a lot of older formats because it's only really legal outside of this format, Legacy, where it doesn't really.
And this is something something people often talk about. They're like, well, as Pioneer comes to Arena, won't Historic just be Pioneer? And it's like things like Innocent Blood, they aren't even legal in Modern, right? So like the way this format gains cards not only moving forward but also moving back from Magic's history really makes it unique.
Mm-hmm. All right, so what are we doing in this match? I assume both decks are just going to try to get a bit bigger, try to be a little more reactive.
Yep. Yeah, I think more removal spells in on both sides is pretty important. If you're on the Rakdos aggro side, you really need to keep both Priest and Pyromancer off the table. Honestly, you need to keep Dreadhorde Arcanist off the table as well. We see the Rakdos deck going up to 4 Ashiok post board, which seems potentially very good.
Notice the Rakdos mid-range deck, because they're playing Loris as a companion, they don't have any Ashiok.
Yep.
Which I think is a pretty big breaker when most of your resources are just trading 1-for-1. Having this card that fights on a different axis and that sidesteps all of their, creature removal is pretty powerful.
Yep. Yeah, big agree. I like the Rakdos aggro player cricket here, cutting Earthshaker Kenrick because they don't block really well. I like that they also decided not to bring in Rampaging for us. I don't think that card's particularly good in this matchup.
Yeah, I also like the Roddy Registors. So there aren't looking at it's fairly easy to protect you from Innocent Blood with your own random creatures like Myra Triton, and then it really stomps over a lot of what your opponent can bring down. And if you think that you have to play the aggressive deck because your opponent has more card advantage, I think that's a good place to be.
Well, Reggie's kind of a tough one, right? I think it depends on how much removal you have. So it looks like the aggro deck's going up to like 9 pieces of removal post board. The tough part about Regisaur is that if your opponent has Young Pyromancer active, Regisaur is just chewing up your hand while it's not getting through.
Sure. Yeah. Regisaur and Young Pyromancer is definitely not great.
Okay, reasonable hand here, even if we're a little bit light on black, and good hand on the other side too. So we're going to get to see both decks actually play a game of Magic here.
Yeah, Thoughtseize and Dreadhorde Arcanist is probably the best combo for Dreadhorde Arcanist.
Yep.
It's most value off a single card, but I assume that's going to be disrupted by Cricket now.
Yeah, and this is what I think makes the red-black mid-range deck, the Luris deck on top, so powerful, is we look at these threats here, and you're like, all right, well, I gotta answer Dreadhorde Arcanist, or I'm probably gonna get outvalued, and I gotta answer Priest on the line too, or that's gonna outvalue me. You have a little bit more time to answer Priest because it needs bodies to go with it, but it's still going to demand an answer at some point.
Yep. And then Luris can just bring back whichever one you deal with. Right, so you have the extra value there.
Yep, I like this Thoughtseize play from Drew. Because they have another Thoughtseize lined up, they started by taking a Knight of the Ebon Legion, so that way they could deny Cricket a double spell turn on 2 in the event that Cricket drew a second black source.
Mm-hmm. Using Thoughtseize as a tempo play is pretty valuable.
Yep.
In this matchup, you have a lot of cards to trade with your opponent's cards, so you don't and the cards don't deal so much immediate value when they come in.
Yep, in the non-combo, non-control matchups, Thoughtseize breaking their tempo is probably the best thing that it can be doing for you.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the Graveyard Hate being a possible mirror breaker with Ashiok. We see Cling to Dust here for Drew on top. What are your thoughts on that one?
So it's 1 mana, so it's obviously not going to be as good as Ashiok. It's definitely still powerful. It is more of a surgical approach, and it doesn't fuel your own graveyard.
Yep.
But it does draw cards, which can dig you into more removal spells to help manage their board. So I definitely think it's good in this matchup. Um, it's unfortunate for Drew right now that they have Cling, but they don't have board control. So
Yep.
they kind of have to turn it into just 1 mana cycle, which is not what you want when you register that card.
And I feel like this really kind of highlights some of the strength of the red black aggro deck in general, is that the red black aggro deck leverages its graveyard as a resource, but it's not dependent on it to win the game, right? Like when your opponent has Grafdigger's Cage or Cling to Dust or a piece of graveyard hate, you're like, okay, I still get to play Magic. Like I'm still just like gonna Thought Seize you and like attack with my things.
Yeah, because what happens is most of your threats are recursive, right? So the Phoenix of Ash is good because you can recast it from the graveyard. But if your opponent kills your Phoenix and then exiles your Phoenix with a second card, that's still card advantage, right?
Correct.
You're
Yep.
still up ahead on that exchange.
I like this push here. Just like knocking him down to 2, so Phoenix is lethal in the air next turn. Also gets you a trigger on your Knight of the Ebon Legion, which is nice.
Yep. Team strong.
Drew is
Drew did not draw any spells, so
Yeah,
they are going to lose.
obviously our sample size is 2 here, so take it with a grain of salt. But so far, this matchup seems like it's pretty reasonable from the Rakdos aggro side of it.
Yeah, I think the aggro deck is favored just because they have more threats, and I don't think I'm unsure if the mid range deck has enough card events to compensate, and maybe that's just because they haven't drawn a young Pyromancer. I could definitely see young Pyromancer just like taking over a game by itself.
I think a big part of it too is that because both of these decks are becoming more interactive post board, I feel like the mid range deck is more of a synergy deck where like its individual pieces are a little bit weaker. So like when there's more removal spells in play and more graveyard hate, their card quality goes down a lot more than the aggro deck does.
Right. If you have like 2 interactive spells and half of your combo, you've you basically mulliganed,
Yep.
right? Because the half doesn't do anything by itself.
Pretty good hand here for Cricket 2. I expect we're going to see a keep there. Kind of a weak hand on Drew's side.
Yeah, it's your young Pyromancer doesn't combo with the other cards in your hand.
I definitely subscribe to the school of thought of don't bother mulliganing against Thoughtseize though, so I'd probably
yeah,
keep
for
if I
sure.
was Drew.
And Village Rites is an instant, right? So they can next turn
They will Croxa and then sack it to Village Rites, yep.
yeah, response.
And these Mire Tritons here, gonna fuel the graveyard for Croxa really nicely here.
Mm-hmm.
We also have Rotting Regisaur, or as I like to refer to it, Deceiver Exarch along with Splinter Twin and Embercleave in hand for Cricket.
Interesting.
So he drew a claim. I like that. Just like get it out of the way. That card's going to trade at some point anyways. Might as well be now. That's a good one. I'd have a hard time not slamming Ashiok here. Because
Yeah.
the problem with playing Regisaur to start out is it chews through the rest of your resources. So if the Regisaur doesn't win the game, you just get too far behind.
Right. And your opponent's not pressuring it.
Okay. We're gonna get aggressive here. These
I mean, this like based up looking at their hands is also
okay. I mean, like, so
yeah,
all things considered, this claim isn't that bad if you're Cricket because it's only 1-for-1ing you. It's like
it's a big searing blaze.
It's
Just
yeah,
the biggest searing blaze you've ever seen.
it's smacking you for 7, but it's still only a 1-for-1. And the fact that Drew is choked on red mana, okay, yeah, and we see Drew here, like, we're waiting on this, we're going to get value and let this Regisaur chew through their hand. And here's the
there.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to win the Embercleave. And here's the tough part, right? Like, the Regisaur is really good with Cleave, but because Cricket played the Regisaur so early, their hand is empty and they can't hold Cleave for it.
Oh, I guess they were gonna discard Cleave anyway, so it didn't actually matter what they discarded.
Okay, and now if you're Drew, you got a little rewarded here for being patient with the claim because now your claim gets to kill their Ashiok.
Right, but you lost a lot of your fuel as well. Like your Lurrus is a lot worse now.
Sure, yeah. Can you beat Croxa plus Phoenix out of Cricket is a real question. Because like Croxa's gonna escape next turn.
Crux is quite large. You get your own Loris. You get to cast this Croxa if you want to. Just to deal 3, just lava spike them. Let them know what's up.
Yeah, like there's some merit to just waiting here. Yeah, because like you want to discard your Croxa to their Croxa. And then we see 13 cards there on the hover over for Cricket. So like escaping Croxa and Phoenix here is no problem.
Yep. Yeah, so here you probably just cast the Croxa. I think in this game in Uro mirrors, it sort of doesn't matter who does the Uro first because you just trade them every turn. But I think in Croxa mirrors, having Croxa priority is a pretty big deal because you're dealing the damage before your opponent.
Yep. Now, one of the small downsides here is because, and obviously Cricket can't know this, but because there was a Croxa in Drew's hand, now we're going to lose the Rotting Regisaur. Because Luris gets to cast Croxy from the bin.
Recast it with Luris, and then...
That being said, Drew's going to die real fast here. Like, there's an Abrade to kill this Phoenix the first time, but, like, Crox is smacking you for 9.
I don't know. Because you can draw a card here.
Oh, gosh, we drew with Castle.
Yeah. And then...
Oh, that's bold. Sure. Why not? Okay, so now you just
I don't know, but if you feel really far behind, I don't even know if it's necessarily the wrong play, right? Like, the Abrade isn't actually dealing with the Croxy. You need more stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever that stuff may be.
Okay, I think you just Ashiok and Downtick now, right?
Oh, yeah. Now, this is...
Yeah, Ashiok just, like, easily one of the most important cards here in this matchup, for sure.
Yep. Kills their Croxa.
Gives you another Uro escape, basically. Like, one card short of another Uro escape.
Make sure that if they're able to kill your Croxa the first time, probably don't have exile-based removal.
Okay. We still have a game, I guess. I was claim the first board.
We are still we're still playing Magic. We're doing stuff. We are getting so Luris gains life. Luris gaining life is very relevant.
Yep.
Here.
And you get to attack here, and you're no longer forced to chump block.
Yep. So they're going to 11. You're going to 8. Like life totals are similar. You're going to get the draw card off the
castle. Yep.
Castle. Phyrexian Tower continues to be just broken.
Yeah, I think there's a start of a game that Drew wins here. I think they're behind, but I don't think they're just done.
Yeah, I agree. Like, so this Thoughtseize, you get to discard to
Croxa,
yeah. I don't think you hold the land because you have Ruins in play, and Croxa going back and forth is such a big part of this matchup.
Not only that, but like Phoenix, you can dump mana into for its activations. Like this, one of the things that's really sweet about this red-black aggro deck is even though it has aggressive curves and cheap cards in it, it's really good at spending 4, 5, and 6, 7 mana into the mid to late game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think another Thoughtseize here probably means we're done.
Yeah, you can spin this. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, now you just stomp Luris and then attack and force a chump block and then play Bone Crusher Giant?
Probably. I don't think they're going to do that because they're hovering this other card.
I think they're taking it in. I think they were set on escaping Phoenix and now they need to reassess since they drew a card for the turn.
Yeah, and that's something, especially, I think that's the hardest part about these long tournaments is your brain in a lot of ways goes in autopilot.
Yep. Well, and that's just a time-saving thing, too, to make sure. And, Cricket is the player we saw in Game 1. They lost because they roped. Yeah. They lost because they roped, right? Like, we're only playing a Game 3 because Cricket choked under a decision. And they don't want to have that happen again here.
Yeah, and so by doing this way, they don't have to
jump with the Arcanist. Yep.
Yeah, but I think it's still fine.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're at a build our own adventure book at this point. I don't think there's draws that get Drew out of this.
Yeah, like even the Abrade here, like if you Abrade the Bone Crusher, you're still taking 2, you're at 3, they have a Croxa and a Phoenix.
Yep. Definitely a matchup that felt like it was all about Ashiok, and Ashiok showed up in a timely manner for
Yeah.
our red-black aggro player here.
I'll agree. Yeah, like you can't even kill the Croxa because then they just cast it again.
Someone in chat pointing out that if they would have drawn claim, that could have been lethal because it would have
Yep.
been 9+1.
So then
Sure.
9 plus
So
1.
they did have an out on that last turn there.
Yep.
All right.
Well,
So that was the other match in the semi lower round 9, whatever you want to call it. We're down to 3 players. I'm going to take a very quick ad break while we coordinate. When we get back, we're going to have the semifinals for you all. Be back in just a few minutes. Thanks for hanging out today, folks. Less than a few minutes. BRB.
Today only, Cool Stuff Inc. is offering viewers of the Hoaglandia Open